The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for Short Time.
Hey, it's Warren Lopez.
David Taylor.
Fred Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine. The one and only Chael Sonnen. And you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
Now up on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, talking with one of the mouse of the South in the world of wrestling, Cliff Fretwell from Compound and Compound Teamwear at cmpteamwear.com. If you've heard that before, you've probably heard him before talking about Nathan Fernandez in the finals. Anyway, as Cliff says, he's a lot smarter than he sounds. Welcome back to the program, Cliff.
Appreciate you having me, man. It seems like we don't talk enough these days. You're getting all busy and traveling the world. Pretty cool to see your career grow as well, man.
Yeah, since that fateful day at the Bison Turf about 18, 17 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, it seems like 20 years. I'm just turned 27, so it couldn't have been that long.
Yeah, well, my 20-year high school reunion's coming up, so it's definitely going to be 20, because I didn't graduate like that young. I was 17 when I graduated, but I wasn't in Fargo yet.
Right. And the turf had some pretty relaxed rules, so I could see a 7-year-old roaming around in there.
You have a baby at a bar.
Yep. I'm a granddad now.
Yeah, let's talk about that before we get into things. Congratulations. Okay, so people are going to be like, wait a minute, you're not that old. And you get a granddad, you're granddad here. So let's lay it down there for me, because I first asked you this question at like University Nationals when I saw your son wrestling for Indiana. I'm like, wait, what? Explain the situation for us.
Yeah, so I'm not old enough to be a granddad. I'm way too good looking and young to be a granddad. So here's the deal. I met my oldest son's mother when he was 5. I adopted him when we got married. So he's my son. He's not my stepson. He's not anything. He's my son. He got into wrestling in middle school, ended up wrestling for Indiana, graduated. He's doing security system computer stuff now, doing great, making a great living for himself, and decided he's going to have a kid, and I'm a granddad.
Yeah, are you 40 yet?
I'll be 40 in November.
You'll be 40 in November, so you're a granddad at 39.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. Like, and I obviously, you know, unless you'd adopted anybody, you wouldn't know. But when you adopt somebody, they completely erase the record of the previous person, if there was a previous person. So on his birth certificate, my age is 13. I'm 13 years old when my oldest son, Anthony, was born, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, and the reason we explain that is we want to get out of any of that preconceived notions about the South as it is, okay? Because I'm from Virginia, from Georgia. We've heard this before.
Sure. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. To have a kid that old, he's probably got his life together a little bit better than I do. Believe it or not, I feel like I call him for some advice sometimes. But it's cool, man. He's doing great. Yeah,
everybody's having kids. I mean, my youngest is 10 months old. Joe Flo just had a baby. Bader's got a kid. You've got a grandkid. We got the next generation coming through, and they don't even know it yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of my last kid. I'm trying to get Theron out of the house, and thank goodness they had a boy, because if Anthony would have had a girl, I'd be broke. My wife would spend every last dime on that girl, and I just pack it up. But little Hudson Luke, man, we'll see. Who knows if he's going to wrestle or not? Way too early to tell, but we'll find out. It's going to be a wild ride.
Well, it wouldn't be shocking to see some newborn rankings pop up in one of these magazines, because I think I saw these 6 and under rankings posted somewhere. I bet. I mean, I know the Wrestling Mindset did a face palm. I think everybody did a face palm when they saw that.
Oh my gosh! Can those kids even go to the bathroom by themselves? I mean, I don't know. Are they still wet in the bed? That's a whole other tangent we could get up on. Chael's son and I listen to this podcast a lot, and if you don't, you're kind of stupid for not. I mean, the guy, he's all over the place from pro wrestling to wrestling to MMA, but the dude's smart as a whip, and he touches on a lot of really cool topics, and he puts wrestling out there in a big. I mean, he's got what, 500,000 like podcast listeners or whatever. Not to advertise for another podcast on your podcast, but anyways, he talked a lot about youth wrestling a couple weeks ago, and it was very, very insightful from a high level guy in our sport. So yeah, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Chael actually has more than one podcast. He's got You're Welcome, which is on Podcast One, which is the one I've actually appeared on. And then he's also got, what's the other one? It's like Behind the Fight or something like that. Let me pull it up real quick. This is me not being prepared, but me actually knowing the podcast. So let's see. I will go to my Overcast app. I will look Beyond the Fight. Yeah, that's the one. Because
Beyond the Fight. You're right.
That's one where he's not as tied into the radio side or radio sounding side as Podcast One, which has the fact that he's a wrestler has a show on that network. It's one of those because Shaq's got a show on it. Jim Ross, Stone Cold, Jericho.
It's big. It's big. Yeah.
We got to say what you want about the guy. He does represent, or at least he speaks of our sport highly, which is again another tangent. But let's get back on the various tangents we're going to talk about today. First things first is if you are a patron of the Matt Talk Podcast Network, rest assured, folks, you will be getting your gear soon because Compound working overtime. Kim Trudgeon just sitting there calling me last Friday after business hours, making sure my order's set. The Matt Talk T-shirts year 2 are coming. Cliff, 1, you've been supporting the Matt Talk Podcast Network since its inception and the stuff that I've been doing even before I started out on my own. What is the coolness about putting together some type of package for not just a company you support, but we're friends. We've been friends for a long time to be able to do that, and then knowing that Compound crown's on the back of these shirts, but hey, there's Matt Talk shirt. Oh, hey, there's a Matt Talk shirt. They must listen to JB's podcast.
Yeah, I tell you, it's cool, man. We get kind of caught up in mentoring our kids so much, and as coaches, that sometimes we don't sit back and reflect as a lot of us have grown as adults in the sport. And we can reflect back to. Talk about the weekend I kind of met you. I met Zeb Miller that same weekend, and that was really the first flow coverage I ever did, whatever that was back then. Just shotgun coverage, shooting video, and just randomly uploading it to a sketchy Flow Wrestling website. And I don't even know how long ago that was, but just to see where you've come in your career and, being able to do it. If we'd have talked then about me owning a company and having a couple gyms and having a big brand in wrestling and you being one of the main NCAA announcers and things like that, it would have just been funny. But to see, how, you see these kids come and go in sports, but to see a lot of the people that have progressed, business wise and professionally in the sport is pretty cool to see too. And, it's cool for us to be able to be a part of that. Our paths didn't go into the same directions, but we figured out a way to kind of link up down the road, and it's awesome. It's cool, man. I'm excited for you and what you're doing, and as well as us being able to be a part of that. So it's cool.
Yeah, everybody I've given a shirt to or who has been a patron of the show. Like I gave one to Steve Frazier when we're coming back from the Olympics, and I see him a couple weeks ago, and he goes, "I tell you, actually no, I was talking to him. I actually didn't see him. I had him on this on the show, and after we got done, he said, "I tell you, man, that shirt." I don't really advertise it too well because it's so awesome. I sleep in that thing. It's one of my favorite shirts to wear around the house. So that's the thing. I would prefer to see it out out and about. I know Henry Cejudo and Eric Sanders were wearing them at the Olympics. It was on NBC. You're taking a picture. It's a Matt Talk shirt. And then Novogratz snatches one. You're seeing him wear one. You got the Compound crown on the back. So it's getting some mileage. So I went with the Super Soft Tri-Blend. And let's talk about this type of product. It's a little bit about the network here and being a patron, which you can get these cool shirts by hitting the right patronage at matttalkonline.com/join the team. But that Tri-Blend Super Soft type of materials, that seems to be the hot item. Whichever company it is seems to be using that type of material.
Yeah, Tri-Blend. If you're not wearing Tri-Blend, you're a bum. It used to just be you could only get Combs cotton, like that soft steel Combs cotton. And that, I think American Apparel, I think, were the ones that first came out with a lot of form fitting, super soft tees. And then you had quite a few other manufacturers. American Apparel was, way overpriced. It was tough to get, a small, medium-sized businesses. You had to buy a gazillion of them. But, so there's a lot of other manufacturers out there doing it. And we use one in particular, but actually two in particular. But, yeah, I mean, like, I wear tri-blends and poly cotton blends, and if I put like a normal t-shirt on, I like almost break out in hives. I mean, I just can't work out in them. It's like wearing a burlap sack. So if you've never worn them on a regular basis and you put one of them on, like one of your shirts, like it's like, holy smokes, like this is a big difference. So those are real hot right now, and everybody's pushing them, and the market's got to the point where they're pretty cost effective for somebody that's trying to do it, whether it's a small business and they're trying to do it for their restaurant or whatever. Used to is like, the shirt costs $10 before you can do anything to it. So no, it's, they're nice, man. They're nice. It makes you feel high dollar without having to pay the high dollar sometimes. That's balling on a budget.
Yeah, and let's not just pay disrespect completely to the old Hanes beefy tee, because that, I think 90% of the shirts in my drawers are like tagless beefy tee or something like that.
Oh my God! When I see some of those leaving out the back, I mean, we print on them too. I just say the little prayer, little cross across the heart. God bless anybody that's wearing that thing. So, but you got to do what you got to do,
Well, a couple of things we're talking to Cliff about today is, one, it's the Compound College Combine. You've got 4 of them coming up this year, starting out in June, right there in your stomping grounds, McDonough, Georgia, then early July in Santa Ana, California at Calvary Chapel, Independence, Iowa, August 19 and 20. That's a big day because August 20 is my birthday, but I'll be in Paris. And then at Bergen Catholic in New Jersey in September. Let's just go back in time and talk about the idea behind the Combine, the first couple years, and then now why you're going to 4 locations across the country at 4 different dates.
Yeah, so it was selfish at first. Some of the coolest ideas come from you just wanting to change things for yourself, and it wasn't necessarily for me. It was for our kids. Our compound kids. Like, we got 150, 200 members between 2 gyms, and we got a lot of kids that aspire to wrestle in college, and some of those kids aren't able to travel as much, and whether it's their schools don't have a tough schedule, or financially they can't get out, or their parents just aren't willing to do it, and the lack of college wrestling in Georgia, or the lack of college coaches coming to Georgia, and Pete Yates, I got to credit him. And we're not the first ones that have done this. Mike Powell's been doing them out in Illinois for a long time, and there's other people around the country, but doing it, branding it, putting some more structure to it, and then leveraging our connections, to get those coaches in and just say, hey, give it a shot. Come evaluate these kids. Whether you've ever recruited a kid from Georgia or not, be a part of something that we can grow and then take that model into other wrestling areas. Obviously we weren't going to start out doing something far away from home, because if it's a flop, and obviously a lot more expenses are involved. So we started the first one at our own facility, called in pretty much every favor I had with as many college coaches as I could. And believe it or not, there was only a couple of guys that said, no, I'm not interested. And they came, and, whether it was Coleman Scott or Sean Bourmet or Chris Pendleton or, any of these guys that came into that first one we had, it was literally the who's who of Division I. Damian Hahn was there. It's the who's who of college coaches. And it was cool. It was cool for the kids to be around those guys. We collect every ounce of data we can on them, from SAT scores to their wingspan. The shirts are color coded. The kids have their names on them. We do skills drills and collect that type of data. The college coaches get to get out there and run clinics if they want. And then they get to watch them wrestle and scrap over the course of the first time we did it was 3 days. We've kind of taken feedback from the coaches and even the athletes and the parents, because we wanted to be a win for everybody. So, I don't care if I think that this is a great idea. If the kids and the parents and the coaches aren't leaving there thinking it was worth their time and their money, then it just doesn't make sense to do it. So over the last couple of years of getting feedback, we did one in Iowa last year, and we're going back this year. It's just, hey, come here, showcase yourself, represent yourself, whether you're an athlete or a college coach, anywhere from NAIA all the way up to Division I. and then, make the connection and go from there. And, Army's picked up a couple guys from there. Arizona State's picked up guys. We're actually going to put out all the kids that have attended and where they've ended up later this week, as I'm kind of continuing to get in the meat of our advertising for this stuff. But, it's not one of those big kind of cash grab camp type things or anything like that. We tried to make it with a value fit the service we were giving them. And this year just seemed like the right time to kind of move to some corners of the U.S. So, we got a great relationship with Jay Carmen out of Calvary Chapel. There's a lot of good wrestling in Southern California. We're going back to Iowa. We're actually moving to Independence High School. They got an unbelievable sports facility that they just finished. And then, Dave Bell hit me up on Snapchat, believe it or not. I talk to Dave Bell at Bergen Catholic through Snapchat more than I do any other form of communication, which is bizarre. But he hit me up. He was like, hey, do you think we could do one of these here? And I was like, I don't know. Let's talk about it. And I was just blown away that a guy at that high level program saw value in what we're doing. And I talked to him a little bit about it, picked the date, made it work, and I'm super excited about that. So I don't want to get too many, because coaches can only be in so many places at one time, but I want to give them enough options to where, hey, I've gotten 3 or 4 guys from Iowa recently, so I'm going to continue to go there and plug away there. I've picked some other guys up from this location, so I'm going to continue to go there, or a specific kid you're recruiting. So it gives them options. We could plug a little 2 or 3 more around the country, but we're going to test this out, see how it goes, and then, we'll just grow it from there.
Yeah, information at cmpcamps.com. Now, as we get to those locations, this is just, my wheels are spinning, my gears are turning, and I'm thinking, have you seen kids that go to or do you foresee kids going to different areas of these combines? Instead, if there's a kid from Georgia, he goes to the Georgia one. Well, what about the kid that might want to get away from home? It's like, I want to go out and be seen by some coaches out in Iowa. Are you seeing more of that type of interest that kids are going to say, let's try a different part of the country so we can get different looks?
Sure. We had several of our Georgia kids go to the Iowa Combine last year. And I see coaches are going to come regional. Like I talked to Jason Chamberlain the other day. He's coming down to the California ones. Obviously, Pendleton will be up from Arizona State to it. So I think it'll be kids trying to find the coaches that are going. We try to get the coaches to commit. I try to list as soon as the kids sign up online so that what coaches know the kids are coming to each one, and the kids know what coaches are going to be at one, so they can say, you know what, I'm interested in Arizona State. Chris Pendleton's going to be there. I got to make plans to go to this one. And to me, looking back on my oldest son being recruited, and ended up in Indiana, there wasn't any amount of money I wouldn't have paid to go to something like this when he was coming through, just to get in front of more coaches, because we traveled a lot. But to be able to get in a controlled environment in front of coaches like that, football and basketball, baseball, been doing it forever, and they start getting stats on these kids when they're, 7 years old, peewees. But, and I don't think we're there yet, or we'll maybe even ever get there in wrestling, but, cause it's a different model. It's not a profit model, but, I think it will, I think people will be more strategic about it. We got kids that actually train to come prepared for the combine now, instead of just, that's something on my calendar I signed up for, I'm going to show up and just do my best. Kids are actually training and making sure they're showing up in the right shape and in the right frame of mind to impress these coaches. So it's just, I'm excited about providing that service and continuing to grow it.
One thing that I'm also looking at, and because a lot of us in wrestling tend to live maybe in a sports bubble around wrestling, we're not really paying attention to, for lack of a better, we're not paying attention to the round ball, that's for sure. But some things that kind of pique my interest here is, how much are you paying attention to the NCAA rulings and such about satellite camps that have been kind of ruffling the feathers down there in SEC country? And, Jim Harbaugh up in Michigan going, I got no problem with it. They're hosting a couple like at my alma mater, Old Dominion. But how much do those rules and things come into play when you're looking to put together a combine like this?
To be honest with you, I try to, everything we do, I try to keep above board, obviously. But I communicate. I got a handful of guys that aren't just coaches and guys that I kind of look up to. I got quite a few coaches that I'll call and say, hey, I want to do this, or I want to change this. How does that impact? Like for instance, we did the flight time duels last weekend at UNC, and it was a cool event, but also, I did it and I moved it there because I love Coleman Scott to death and we got a good relationship, and I want to put an event there and at their facility, which was great, but I want to help the guy out and get kids on his campus. And I called him, I said, hey, what's the legalities of this? Can kids come in and weigh in and then you give them a tour or whatever, and he kind of asked, some questions and was like, look, we need to hold off on that. Let's figure that out for next year. But, so a lot of times when I got an idea or I want to do something, I don't necessarily think with rules in mind to begin with, but I can call those guys and say, hey, this is my idea. This is what I want to do. Can we check with your guys, your compliance guys, and make sure it's legit? So, I keep my ear to the ground on that type of stuff, but I also kind of lean on the coaches too that are involved and that are coming, to kind of say, hey, we can't do this anymore. I can be there for this, but I have to leave when you do this. And a lot of that stuff's a gray area. You know what I'm saying? A lot of that stuff's a gray area. So, I don't see it getting any tighter. I see the NCAA trying to control it, but I don't see it getting much more crazier than it is. I could be wrong, though. I really could be wrong on the rules. I mean, the rules are pretty crazy already.
Was your intent to start this to funnel the best Georgia kids to Division I, or was it just all kids in your camp and in that area to colleges of what fits? Because we've seen Division II programs and NAIA programs added in Georgia, whereas that's where a lot of maybe that talent base could sit, but a lot of people think, and again, SEC country, D1 or nothing. I mean, how has your opinion changed over the years on that, or has it just always been let's put kids where they belong?
I think opportunity is just you just go out and create opportunity, and then it's kind of up to the participants, no matter what opportunity you're creating, to kind of take that momentum or vehicle or whatever you've done, service, showcase, spotlight, and just kind of drive it into where they want to go. And there's a lot of people that have that D1 or nothing mentality, and that doesn't always pan out for everybody. But I want to get a good mix. The Javi Maldonado's down at Southeast, and even Spates came in last. You think about it. I was joking with Spates the other day. He came in last year. Nobody really knew about his program, and then they have an unbelievable NCAAs. And it's like, hey, dude, I'm going to start advertising that you're coming to this thing. Like, you're a big deal now, so stuff like that. Like, I'm trying to create a buffet for everybody is the way I look at it. And it's just, hey, here's the opportunity. Here's the buffet. Grab your plate and eat what you want, and good luck from there. Because I've obviously had a lot of people create a lot of opportunities for me, whether it's business or whatever in my life. And I'm not saying I'm just doing this out of the goodness of my heart. It's definitely a business venture for us, because it not only helps grow our brand, it continues to make us relevant in wrestling. It creates an opportunity. It strengthens my relationships with my athletes, other athletes, college coaches, other high school coaches. So, it's multi-pronged for us. The more we can grow and make relationships in wrestling, as well as provide opportunity, and and continue to grow our business from a revenue standpoint, it's good. I feel good about it. But I want every kid to come there, every skill level, to feel like that there's somebody there that can recruit them. I don't want it to just be Division I coaches top to bottom. You got to have some of those guys there to attract those other guys, to attract those hammers. But there again, Spencer Lee's not going to these types of things. You know what I'm saying? He's getting recruited by winning world medals and things like that. So, and we've had some extremely high level kids come. Joey Silva's been to these before. There's been national champion type high top 5 guys that have come to these things. It's like I said, it's a buffet. Grab your plate and eat.
Yeah, one thing is where is the women's wrestling sit in this development? Georgia's got 2 women's programs at Emmanuel, coached by Link Davis, who is the husband of multiple-time world champion and world medalist Christy Davis, a.k.a. Christy Morano. And then you've got the program Ashley Sword has taken over at Life University on the women's after Dave Matthews, another Georgia boy, went to take a job at USA Wrestling. So you got women's programs there. And you've also got guys like James Yannishonis ending up on a coaching staff at Life, and NAIA champ Omi Acosta now coaching there. So and Jeff Bedard coaching at Reinhardt. So the Georgia wrestling scene's evolving, and how much of the girls working into this and plans for women's wrestling too later on.
Man, I'll tell you, not to bag on Georgia high school wrestling because I think they do an okay job, but they really let the boat just flounder on this one, and USA Wrestling's done a pretty decent job. I mean, Dave Matthews put in a lot of tireless work. Sean Moisner puts in a lot of tireless work with our girls. I know I'm missing a lot of people here talking about the girls scene, but GHSA needs to step up to the plate and decide that they're gonna have a girls high school season. I mean, they USA Wrestling stepped up and have a girls state tournament, and they have it on different weekends so the girls can wrestle their state tournament and the boys state tournament, which I think is awesome. But GHSA's yet to step up to the plate, and like you said, we got some programs now in Georgia. But I kind of tweeted it out, and it was kind of low key, but we're actually doing a 5th combine, and it's going to be at the NWCA Coaches Convention, and we're going to push extremely hard. It was something me and Brian Hazard and Pat Tochi had a conference call about the other day. We're going to push extremely hard to get as many female potential recruits to this one as we can. We're going to market a ton to the women's college coaches, and really try to make, and I don't even care if this combine down at the National Coaches Convention in Daytona at the end of July, I believe it is, end of July, 1st of August, is primarily girls. I don't even care. Because there again, we want to get the bulk of those college coaches down there and just try to get a ton of girl recruits down there and grow it that way. So to answer your question, a couple different ways. Yes, we're gearing the combine towards that at the NWCA Coaches Convention. There'll be guys there too, and all the Division I coaches and NAI coaches and stuff for men's wrestling will be there as well. But we're really going to push the women there, and GHSA's just got to step up in Georgia and see what's going on, and the efforts are being put in, and they're just, I don't know if they're turning a blind eye to it right now, or it's just not something that's important to them. But they got to get on board. We're starting to get the numbers where it can justify it.
Yeah, we're also talking about the same organization that denied wrestling websites media credentials for the state tournament. So, yeah.
Don't get me started. There you go again with another topic. Don't get me on soapboxes around here. So,
now moving forward, you're at a company compound that makes custom sublimated singlets and gear and fight shorts, or I don't think wrestling people will like calling them fight shorts, so to speak. That's why I think the rule change, or the rule option that came in said shorts geared for wrestling, because I think the word fight shorts is scaring people off. But this impacts you in two different manners, because you've got kids that you coach that are working into that mid to elite level range, and that they want extra coaching, they want extra time to become an elite level wrestler. So they've probably got past that whole singlet thing. But you as a gear company, this creates another opportunity for revenue streams that's beyond just practice gear. So let's first start on the mindset of the two-piece that may be a barrier to entry in the South, where I believe some of the bigger kids in this country, will sit there and be like, I don't want to wear that. I mean, what are your experiences been like with the singlet maybe as a barrier to entry in your coaching experience before we get to the gear side of the conversation?
Not to keep going back to my oldest son's wrestling career, but he wrestled at a school called Henry County down in McDonough area, and that school, Jason Hayward's come out of that school, Dalvin Tomlinson's come out of that school, an Alabama guy that just signed in the NFL. Like, that school has put out some unbelievable high-level professional athletes, and I coached from the time he was in middle school. I just kind of was like a community coach, but it was tough for us to get some of those guys that couldn't make the basketball team, that wasn't running track or any of that stuff, and get them into the wrestling room. And the singlet was a little bit of a barrier. It was. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't in the hallways every day like, the head coach, Marty Hutzel was, but, it was a little bit of a barrier to get those kids to come out, and we struggled with it. Now that I'm kind of in the private sector, those kids are there because they want to be there. that's not as much of a factor. I don't know if I've ever had a kid that, at the compound, they're like, oh, I got to wear a singlet. That's crazy. I don't want to do that. But this is the way I look at it. If it's not going to make if it's going to make one more kid wrestle because we're changing it, then change it. And it's not like they're doing away with the singlet. Your options are singlet, compression top, compression bottom, compression top, shorts made for wrestling, air quotes, and get this, singlet with shorts made for wrestling. So you could technically wear a singlet with a pair of fight shorts, which is ridiculous. So to me, I always tell our kids anyways, man, to put on pretty much skimpy spandex and go out on a mat all by yourself in front of a room full of your peers and even just attempt to compete at a high level takes a lot of courage. Whether you're really, really good at it or really, really terrible at it, takes a lot of courage. And this takes a little bit of the edge off of it. You can play that well. They want to be an MMA fighter, so this will help them get in. I just think it just takes a little bit of the embarrassment of the uniform off of them. And like I said, if 5 more kids come out and wrestle across the country, from what I understand, wrestling participation is down already. So anything we can do to boost that back up nationwide, it's a no-brainer if you're talking from a coaching standpoint. Now, if you're talking from a clothing vendor that does custom teamwear standpoint, I was still all for it, but it's way cheaper for me to make a singlet than it is for me to make a pair of fight shorts and a compression top. So when these rules started kind of lingering out there that they were coming down, because I think Washington and a couple other states did it last year, and we have a handful of clients that actually bought that stuff from us and used it during their season. From a business standpoint, it stings my profit margin a little bit, so that kind of puts me in a sense to where I gotta figure out a more efficient way to make it, and just be a businessman about it and not reduce our quality that we had to still give them the highest quality product, but, to still kind of maintain what we were doing from a business standpoint with other people out there. But just saying no to it, if I wasn't a wrestling coach and I was only focused on selling a ton of teamwear and making as much money as I possibly can, I would probably be against it, yeah. Because anybody out there that's saying they can make a compression top and a bottom for as much as they can make a singlet, I don't know where they're getting it made, but that's pretty doggone tough to do, just from a manufacturing standpoint. So it'll take some adjustment, and the guys that are, kind of knew about it and saw it out coming out on the horizon, make some adjustments. The weird thing is the rules were really, really iffy for a period of time, and guys like me that weren't on the special inside circle of the rules committee, not naming any names, kind of were left in the dark, and they came out with a set of rules, and they came out with like a revised set of rules. And then there was some talk about we were going to address how big the shorts could be from a fit standpoint. And then from what I heard, they realized that they really can't regulate that unless the referee's out there kind of sticking his hand up everybody's shorts before they wrestle and seeing how snug they are or not. And now they're talking about coming out with some drawings. But the last set of rules that I got was from a very high person on the rules committee, and they're like supposedly final rules. So I felt really comfortable about telling everybody, hey, our stuff is in NFHS approved, and we've got tons of orders for them. A lot of people are jumping on board with it.
Now, before we get to a theory that's been circulating out there, I want to go back to the participation. So I've got the NFHS stats. So in 2011, we peaked recently at 273,000 and change high school wrestlers. That's with 10,407 teams, at least on the boys' side. So that was averaging about 26.3 wrestlers per team. Now, since then, this is where people are saying we're on the downward slide because the last 5 years of NFHS, I'm struggling just like you were with that data, there's been a decline. So the first year, losing 0.2 kids per team, then 0.4 kids per team. Okay, so we're 2 years, we lose half a kid. The next year, we lose half a kid per team. So that's one full wrestler in 3 years that is not on these teams, while the total number of teams has gone up by 200 and something teams. So now, then we get to 2014, into 15, we lose 0.9 wrestlers. Then we lose 0.9 wrestlers the next year. So we've lost the equivalent of 3 wrestlers per team since 2011. Now, if we take the number of teams that we've got now, we're at 250,000. If we add those 3 kids back, because we've got more teams, we get beyond 270,000. We get to the 281,000 range, which would be a 37-year high. So we're looking about 1 kid. 1 kid makes a significant difference. 2 kids,
sure.
we're not declining anymore. 3 kids, we are at an all-time high. So that's kind of the challenge for high school coaches around the country. 3 extra kids per team. Is the 2-piece, is that going to maybe get you 1 kid? Like you said, I think it's worth it. And again, I was the overweight kid that didn't want to wear the singlet. So while I'm not trying to totally steer the narrative that way, it's my personal experience that, yes, it was a barrier to entry. Now, moving beyond the participation, you're a gear guy, and there have been some conspiracy theories floating around that, this has been a plan by Flow Wrestling and gear companies to make more money. What you just said seems to be contradictory to that statement that, yeah, the 2-piece singlet is not going to be a financial boom for Cliff Keen and your company and Blue Chip and the other brands out there that are going to manufacture this stuff or put this stuff together.
Well, you can look at it 2 different ways. So you could look at it as, okay, well, this team's been using singlets for the last 2 years, and they're going to use singlets for another 2 years. They buy singlets every 3-4 years. That's probably not the case anymore. Pretty much every school buys them every other year at least. Some schools buy. So we got some schools that literally buy 2 sets of singlets every season, like one at the beginning and one in the middle. You could say that, hey, this is going to take all those people that weren't thinking about buying uniforms this year and buy uniforms, which the day the rule came out, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm pretty good at marketing, so I was prepared for it. But I wasn't prepared for the amount of phone calls that we got and emails we got unsolicited from an email campaign or banner ad or anything like that, just calling us up and saying, hey, I'm interested in getting some quotes, people we've never done business with before. So I'm not going to lie, we've got a pop of interest to buy stuff from us from people we hadn't before. But there again, if there's those people that are only going to buy every 2 years or so, yeah, that's a new client I got. But it's not like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like that there was this gigantic windfall of everybody having to get rid of their singlets. You know what I'm saying? They can keep their singlets. So those guys that are traditionalists that just want to keep their singlets, okay, they changed the rule. I'm keeping my singlets. So, if you want to play that gamble and say, hey, everybody's going to burn their singlets and buy 2 pieces, then I don't know. We'll have to look at the numbers of people that had singlets that didn't get singlets and people that had singlets and chose to get a set of top and bottoms. I really don't know yet. It's kind of early, but I will say that the pop in numbers that we got for that time of year that we normally don't get that much was pretty significant. It was noticeable on our radar for sure. And how long that'll last, I don't know. Everybody likes a new shiny toy in the room. So it might be this 1 year everybody's up in arms and converts over to it and gets a set. And then it's like, it really didn't make any difference. And our kids really like the singlet and then go back to the singlet the following year. I think it's way too early to tell. But to say strictly that it's going to be more money from a pure manufacturing standpoint, I have to design 2 pieces now instead of 1. And I have to manufacture 2 pieces instead of 1, and I have to project manage 2 pieces instead of 1, because some kid that wears a small top might wear a extra small bottom, whereas a singlet, he wore 1 size because it was 1 piece. So there's a couple little small variables in there that makes life a tad bit more difficult for us, but at the end of the day, we'll figure it out, and we'll roll with it, and it's just like anything else. We adapt and overcome. Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Let's swing it back to the club situation. When I was at USA Wrestling, when Zeke Jones was coaching there, he got a lot of the guys that were in the room to really start wearing singlets while they practiced, because that was replicating what they were going to do in competition. It was atypical for any of us in high school to wear a singlet in practice because that we didn't want to wear a singlet in practice. Now the upper levels did. And then all of a sudden we're looking at the camp system. How do your kids work out? What do they prefer to train in? And what type of combination do you feel best is for movement and things outside of this thing that could be competition ready and maybe avoids the claims about fingers getting snatched, which seems to be a key argument against the two-piece.
Oh, man. No, I mean, to me, if people that are making that argument, I don't want to call them stupid, but it's stupid. I mean, everybody in America just about wrestles in some type of T-shirt and some type of short, whether it's compression short or mesh short. Half the time I got kids in my room wrestling in shorts with pockets in them, that just grabbed something and went out the door. And I don't know if I've ever had a kid, knock on wood grain, I don't know if I've ever had a kid break a finger because it got twisted up in a shirt or something like that. So that claim, I think, is completely false. As far as our rooms go, I would say it's probably split down the middle and just shirt and shorts. We have a handful of kids that'll wear singlet over top of their stuff. We got the Nick Masters of the world. And then we got, kids that are compression bottom, or compression tights and shirt. I don't have a lot of kids that are full compression gear in practice, but there again, out of all and I wear sweatpants and a sweatshirt almost every single day, and I wrestle in that, and I don't think I've broke anybody's fingers. So for people to make that claim, it just don't fit. Now talking about comfort level and training in something that you're actually competing in, people are always trying to get an edge, and what you're talking about with Zeke is like, kind of goes back to like with Lincoln McElravy coming in after a short season and Gable like scheduling all these extra duels. So he had a full season worth of competition to get there. There's a way to get an extra edge, whether it's mental or physical or just feeling like you're competing when you're really not competing officially. Being able to train exactly what I'm going to compete in, it could affect me. It could have made me feel a little bit more comfortable. I don't know. It kind of depends on the kid. There's those kids that just come in and train that Taylor Lujan type kid that he could train in Carhartt overalls, and then you put him in a tutu, and that kid's going to wrestle the exact same. You know what I'm saying? So it might affect some kids, but I think talking drastic mental edge, no. In my unprofessional opinion.
As we move forward, there's a couple different topics that I'd like to get your perspective on. Being a guy who lives down in South, and there were some Southern cities that put in bids for the NCAA championships. We got the 4 sites coming out. One, how excited are you that we've got some different cities in the mix? We're going to, one, I'm excited because Minneapolis will be about 13 minutes from my house in a couple years, but Pittsburgh's now in the mix. But Atlanta missed out, Louisville missed out, Orlando missed out. I mean, what do you think from a Southern perspective about wrestling not coming to those cities, or what do you like about the NCAA championship bid cities as they were announced a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's exciting to go to other cities, man. I'm blessed enough to get to travel and do a bunch of camps around the country, and sometimes I'm in and out so quick with a camp. I like last summer, I was doing a camp at Clear Springs, I believe it was, out in Houston, and I'm staying in a hotel like 5 minutes from like the Houston space station. I'm leaving to go to the airport, and I'm like, holy smokes, I was at a really cool space near some cool space there. Didn't even get to go like see it or anything. So like getting a chance to like as almost like a tourist, just get to go to these cities and like kind of see the city and enjoy it. I think it's pretty cool. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say if they put in St. Louis forever, I wouldn't be upset. I just think St. Louis is a cool spot to have it. Moving it around every so often is great, but like every time I go to St. Louis, it's like I feel like that's where the NCAAs need to be. I guess probably just because they've had a lot of them there, but I think it's cool. I mean, I'm bummed that Atlanta didn't get it. I know there was a really talented committee of people that put an unbelievable amount of hours with the Atlanta Athletic Association to try to make that happen. But I think us not having a Division I team probably hurt us, and them trying to use UTC as that satellite team. I'm sure it came down to money at some point, and that was the deciding factor. So, it is what it is. But yeah, would I have loved to have slept in my own bed and go to NCAAs? That'd have been unbelievable. But, it's not bad getting out, and took my wife to her first NCAAs this past year, and that was fun. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, speaking of the wife thing, I think when it comes here to Minneapolis, I'm probably not going to stay here. I'm going to give my wife, actually, I might stay here. I'll give my wife the hotel to stay away. Hey, a bunch of people are going to want to crash here. Why don't you go stay in the hotel? Yep. We'll sublet the house for the week.
Yeah, that might not be a bad idea, man.
Because
Airbnb.
Yeah, I don't know if we're there yet. Maybe I'll do that when we're hitting overseas. Well, Cliff, what else is on your agenda? What can we look forward to from not just a compound, from the two-piece side of things, or the Matt Talk gear, as I'm working on another order to get those hats out for the patrons. So Phil Merrill and crew, Andrew Burgoyne, hang tight. The hats are coming. Don't worry. The shirts are coming first. But I've also got draft glasses, which I think I sent you one of those, didn't
I? Yeah, I think I got one.
All right.
I have to look when I get back in the house. I think I did.
Yeah, because that's one thing. You produce the gear. You can keep a shirt off the line. But I'm keeping a Matt Talk shirt.
You know that's the thing is, like, we'll see some cool stuff. Like one of the designers, Joe, was working on Eric Montoya camp shirt, this El Chapo shirt today. And I think Eric tweeted it out like earlier than I thought they were going to, because he was so fired up about it. And I went to my production manager and I showed up to him. I said, when this comes through and you order shirts, you order an additional large shirt, print it, and you deliver it to me pretty please with sugar on top. I rarely even think about doing that. Obviously, I'm not going to pull one and steal it from the client. I've probably done that before. I'm probably lying when I say that, but I just hope they didn't notice. But yeah, I just get too caught up. There's so much stuff going in and out of that place, and we got such a great team, and they turn stuff around so quick. I try to go back there and snatch some stuff, but I usually forget and wait till the last minute. As far as what's next, man, holy smokes, we got all kind of cool stuff going on, from, expanding our business and growing that, to, camp season. It's like, we're talking about expanding and growing and moving and a whole bunch of cool stuff, and maybe even opening up another facility in the Southeast. And then I realized that I leave for a week and a half to start camp season next Monday. So, be a lot of work from the road, but I mean, there's going to be a day where I can't get on the mat and coach like I get to now. And as much as I'm gone, like I savor these moments of being able to go and mentor and learn from other kids and coaches and travel the country and take my son to something, and take some of our CMP athletes to some. And even like when I go to Iowa, we got a bunch of CMP kids up there wrestling. I grab them and take them and do some camps with me, and just, it's a summer of fun and teaching and mentoring, but it's a summer of kind of reflecting and getting to be involved in something that's a lot bigger than just the compound or me or individuals. And, I look forward to it, but it scares me being away from home so much during the summer. But, Stephanie does an unbelievable job of putting up with me and let me travel and do this wrestling thing. And it's definitely a blessing, but there's some big stuff coming from us in the next year. So we got some really big things in the works right now that are going to surprise some people that the little engine that could are going to pull off. And we got some great people coming in to partner with us over the next year or so, and it's going to be cool. We launched this gigantic saltwater fishing line with this boat company, and we've been growing that. So that's something non-wrestling related, but it's really helped us with our product development and understand what other stuff's out there to even make our wrestling products that are like, just challenging ourselves in a different market's made us reevaluate what we're doing in sportswear. So I'm excited, man. Like I said, we got a great team. Everybody thinks that I don't sleep and I work 24/7 and I do this all on my own. A lot of times I joke about it, but we got some really talented and diehard people working for us. And I'm hoping to bring a lot more of those guys on. The cool thing is, and I don't want to keep rambling, but we have kids that came through Compound that are graduating college now. And it's cool for me because some of those kids want to come back and work with us, whether it's being a marketing director or salesperson or a wrestling coach or a production type guy or a designer or something like that. So these things coming full circle over the next couple of years are going to be really cool for us. Have a kid like a Hunter Gamble, who's at UTC now coaching, but he was there from day one and he's graduating college now. And, he might get into a field to where, a year or so down the road, I can scoop him up and hire him, and he's working for us at a high level. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And, just continuing to grow and impact and be impacted, man, and get to hang out with guys like you every now and then and talk wrestling.
Yeah, speaking about guys you like to hang out and talk wrestling with, one of those guys has left the state of Georgia for the last couple of years. The other voice of the old Ropewell videos, Lee Roper, has been an assistant coach at Northern Iowa the last couple of years. What's it like to see a guy you work so closely with, work up the ranks in Division I coaching at a program with so much energy behind it like the Panther train in Northern Iowa?
Man, I'll tell you, I'm too proud of that guy. I couldn't put in words like, when you're proud of your kids, and I don't look at him like he's my kid. I mean, I look up to him probably more than he realizes. But, just to see, it was just like a thing that we sat around and talked about opening up a wrestling gym one day. And then, that happened. And then we wanted to have kids win big tournaments. And then that started happening. And then we wanted to have kids nationally recruited, and we want to have kids go to college. We want to have kids win in college. And, and it got to be kind of looking around one day and it's like, holy smokes, we've done a lot of cool stuff. And then we always preach to our kids about, your dreams and your next level and what you're going to go do. And, we kind of realized one day it's like, this isn't the pinnacle for me. The pinnacle for me is to coach at the highest level possible, whether it's, the world team coach or a head Division I college coach. And that opportunity presented itself. And it's like, there was not one hesitation in my body to try to keep him here. It wasn't. And as much as I miss him being in the room where I'm showing some technique and I'm kind of looking at him like, I don't feel like I'm showing this right. And him kind of looking at me like, you're showing this wrong, or no, that is right. Confirmation type thing. And it's just the bond we had in wrestling. Like I definitely miss it. And anytime I get a chance to get up to Iowa, I find where he's at, I find what they're doing, and I try to get in that room or, just go to dinner with him and ask him. And, we talk and text and, and exchange ideas and things like that. But it's not the same pretty much living with the guy, in the wrestling room. And like I said, I couldn't be more excited for him and what they're doing up at UNI. They're getting a handful of our guys every year and a handful of the best guys in the country from other parts. And, him and Schwab are gonna be knocking on the door of some of these schools that have maybe gotten a little comfortable hanging around the top 10 in the next couple of years. So I'm extremely excited about seeing those kids on that team grow and the way they're going about it, and what they're doing up there at UNI. I'm blessed to get the inside track of that, if I could say that, to kind of see and talk and hear what's going on behind the scenes and know stuff a lot of people don't know, and then go to the NCAA tournament or go to the Max or whatever, or watch those and see what those kids can do out there. And it's cool. I got a really tight connection with the program that a lot of people don't get an experience unless they're a part of it. It's cool, man. It's really cool. And I'm super, super proud and excited for him.
Last part of the show, we're going to go back to the short time segment. I believe you might have done this the last time you were on the show, but we've changed up some questions. We've Georgified them a little bit. So are you ready for the challenge? 10 questions in 90 seconds or thereabouts. You ready for the challenge, Cliff?
Sure. I'll probably get them all wrong.
Well, I don't think there are right or wrong answers. There may be incorrect assessments, but anyway.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Question 1, who's your favorite person to follow on Twitter?
Oh, God. Oh, man. That's I can't give him that much, but I've got to be Willie Saylor, though. I dog it.
Especially when he's at Applebee's after 5 p.m. Question 2. Yeah. You win the Olympic gold. What are you having for dinner?
Ooh. Spaghetti. I'll probably have some type of spaghetti. Baked ziti, something like that.
Question 3. Best wrestler from Georgia people don't talk about.
Whit Durden, just because it's been a while. Everybody still knows Pete Yates, but Whit Durden, third, right, at Oklahoma. 2-time All-American, the first 2-time All-American ever from Georgia. I think he's going to be a doctor here, if he's not already. Super smart dude. Arturo product.
Arturo with the dreads, Virginia guy originally. Anyway, question 4. All-time favorite flavor of Gatorade?
Ooh, gotta go with the original green or the lime, whatever that is.
Lemon lime.
The old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, old school.
Well, and you and I are fairly similar in age here. So, question 5, your favorite video game of all time?
Ooh. Of all time, probably Pitfall.
Yes.
Just because you couldn't beat that game, and nobody other than our age knows anything about Pitfall. The worst graphics ever, and it was impossible to beat. I got eaten by an alligator at least 5,000 million times.
Yeah, and how many times did you hit that scorpion? You'd be like, man, that's a giant scorpion. I mean, if you ran into a scorpion that big in real life,
you can't jump over those things. It was a video game flaw. The developers screwed us so bad in that.
Activision can suck it. Anyway, question 6, favorite international wrestler?
Oh, man. Kazumov right now is my top, man. I've been studying that guy, and he's just too dynamic, man. But I don't know, man. I've been on a bit. I'm always on a big Euro kick, and I hate not picking an American, man. But Kazumov's just really blowing my mind right now. I'm obsessed with this quad pod position during freestyle season. So that's my favorite right now. It'll change in a couple weeks.
Question 7, what move would you rather have in your arsenal? The John Smith low single or the Jordan Burroughs reshot double?
Oh, you got to go with Smith, man. The greatest, the GOAT. I'm terrible at low singles, by the way.
Who's one guy from history you'd like to wrestle, regardless of weight class? Not necessarily a wrestler, but maybe a historical figure.
Oh, I can wrestle anybody?
Anybody.
Oh, Abe Lincoln all day. People talk about Abe Lincoln that was a wrestler. I'd snap that man in half. I'd fireman's him. I got one good fireman's for everybody.
All right, who's your funniest teammate of all time?
Funniest teammate? Man, oh man, that's a tough one. I was around some doggone characters. I wouldn't necessarily say Matty B was a teammate, but if we're going with like Team CMP fam, dude, you can't argue with Matty B. He's the coolest dude on the planet. So Matty B was on the GMWA Gorilla Squad once or twice. I'm gonna pick Matty B.
Yeah, recent graduate as well too. So congratulations to him on that.
Okie State. Who knows what he's gonna do with himself.
And question 10, which is worse, driving through Atlanta or driving through Manhattan?
Oh, Atlanta all day, just because people don't know how to drive. It's amazing.
Yeah, this is just on a dry day, too. We're not talking about adding any element of snow. I think Atlanta wins hands down.
Yeah, precipitation, fog, sunshine, clouds, shade, anything like that. People are just out of control. It's ridiculous.
And question 11, bonus question. How awful is Georgia State football?
I would like to co-sign how terrible they are, but I couldn't tell you. I don't keep up with it.
I just wanted to get a shot at Georgia State football in there because
take a shot at them.
I just take a shot at them because they're quite awful. I remember when they started their team. They're ripping on Old Dominion starting football like, we're going to be in an SEC recruiting. Yeah, okay. You guys lost to a school that doesn't even exist anymore. It's called Lambeth.
Probably going to be as good at football as Boise State's going to be at baseball.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you brought that up. I'm actually going to I was going to touch on this on the end of the show, but I think I'm going to maybe throw it here. Did you see the story that the Oregon student paper put out about like Oregon baseball losing like $17 million since they've started the program?
Yeah, there was a couple articles floating around. I think I put one on Facebook by like 1 a.m. last night that I was reading that there was a lot of numbers. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, a lot of that stuff's alumni driven. A lot of that stuff's hidden agenda, and it's nothing new to college sports, and somebody that can stroke a check to get things going, or maybe know somebody that knows somebody that's got a kid that wants to play baseball somewhere, made something happen. But at the end of the day, I mean, when you're justifying something from a budget standpoint and then it's pretty much fake news, then, you need to be held accountable for it. Whether we're all up in arms about, they lost wrestling, that does suck. But there's some things that led to that. And I put something out about it, and I got a little bit of backlash from it, saying that, some of that ownership has to fall on the previous coaching staff, and I wasn't talking about Mendoza. The numbers don't lie, right? And you gotta justify what's going on. And when you're starting to lose money and you're not supposed to, or you're not projected to, then somebody's got to be held accountable for it. Whether it's, hey, go fundraise more money like a lot of non-rev sports have to do, or, hey, we're getting rid of this. We're tired of flushing money down the drain. So I think all that stuff's lingering right now, but I kind of think it's like the whole Trump-Russia thing. At some point, we're going to get a straight answer, but it might take 10 years. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not going to touch the political side of the Trump-Russia statement.
I know absolutely nothing about politics. It's so funny that I even put that in there. I couldn't tell you who the Attorney General was.
Yeah, I hate all of that stuff too. Now, I will say this: right? Years ago, I don't know Madeleine Albright. I don't know. So here's the thing that Boise State doesn't have that Oregon does. Guy named Phil Knight. So Oregon can lose millions of dollars, and they can say, "Hey, Uncle Phil, hey, our former AD that never graduated, Pat Kilkenny, they got money. Boise State's not going to have that money." So basically, fighting on Twitter about it with people that don't know anything about the actual stats, and just interesting of note that baseball, yes, they have more teams than they used to have. However, the percentage of sponsorship. They used to be sponsored by 92% of the Division I teams, Division I schools. Now there's more D1s, but their sponsorship percentage is actually lower. It's actually 85%. So it's not growing like people say, comparative saying, oh, wrestling's dying, baseball isn't. Well, baseball's not really growing. It's only growing because we've got more Division I schools now. The overall numbers growing, not the percentage of school sponsorship. So that's actually going to wrap up my, how I have the short time, I have the short spiel at the end. Well, Cliff, you've basically taken that with me. So we're over an hour. We've been talking wrestling. We've been talking, I don't know. We haven't talked about anything fried chicken, though, because that's one thing, and gravy and country fried steak.
I don't eat fried chicken.
I had grits for breakfast this morning. So. Yeah,
grits are okay. Fried chicken creeps me out. I'm a meat eater, but fried chicken creeps me out.
All right, well, we'll just we'll leave it at that. Cliff Fretwell, once again, cmpteamwear.com. You can check out the compound camps at cmpcamps.com. Check out the compound gear if you're a patron of this show and you want some of those super soft, awesome compound Matt Talk t-shirts. Go to matttalkonline.com/join the team. It's you got some shirts, you got some hats, you got some draft glasses, the digital preview guides that you get, the Fargo Almanac, Cliff, all that stuff. Is if they're patrons of this program. So I think they should sign up. What do you think?
Dude, don't be stupid. If you don't, you hate wrestling.
Let's see. If I said that, I might criticize. But anyway, thanks, Cliff. Appreciate the time, and we'll see you down the line, man.
Yeah.
Show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to matttalkonline.com.